Morning, folks. Brian here, Geomagnetic Earthwatch. Saturday, August 9, 2025. A little bit of a talk before I head out and do my work. A little bit of talk about fires. Head out and do my work. So my work, about 37 or 40 years ago, I worked in a major city hospital in the safety department. Had to wear a whole bunch of different hats on my head, but primarily as the safety coordinator, fire safety. Other hats like after hours morgue admission attendants, attending all psych calls and so forth, but mainly a fire safety officer in charge. This hospital has up to 5,000 occupants, from staff, patients, visitors, service personnel, etc. So we had to know a lot. Each one of us had to attend the Greater Vancouver Fire Protection Association annual school hosted by the Vancouver Fire Department, which includes study of the NFPA, National Fire Protection Association Handbook, 14th edition. It wasn't a handbook. It was the size and thickness of a phone book. So we had to go through a lot of study, some practical work. So you need to understand the basics of fire, the fire triangle. In order to have a fire, you need a fuel, oxygen, and an ignition source, or heat. Heat alone can be an ignition source. So this includes radiative heat, can ignite a fire by heating combustible materials to their ignition temperature. Now that could be a lightning strike. That's a lot of heat. A cigarette butt, that's a little bit of a heat. Radiative heat. Geothermal heat. So the roots of vegetation can ignite from radiative heat if the vegetation is dry enough and the radiate heat is intense enough and long enough. So if a vegetation loses its moisture, the ignitability increases. You have dry roots during drought conditions can ignite. A fire can start from the roots. I'll give you another analogy. So again, we have to attend to all fire calls until the arrival of the fire department. Now back then, this hospital had its own power source from a steam source, the power plant. And the main steam riser was wrapped in insulation. So steam, radiative heat, eventually ignited the outside wrap of the insulation high up in the power plant. And ignited it, radiative heat. So I had to climb up there in the vertical ladder carrying a very heavy extinguisher. There was large MG sets below, motor generator sets, electricity, so I couldn't use water until someone can cover them up and protect them. So I had to take up a 20-pounder CO2 fire extinguisher. And the objective was to cool the material above the fire line to below its ignition temperature. I had to stop the burn going up because the main power cable trays are running up there. Anyway, the radiative heat from the steam, the main steam riser, ignited the insulation wrap on the outside of the pipe. As it can ignite dry vegetation starting at the roots if you have heat rising from the bottom, such as I show you a great many times, including since the past 3 days in Vesuvius. Just a little bit of a talk about the fire triangle. You don't have to have a big lighter. You don't have to have a blowtorch to start a fire. Now, I'm damn sure that the Italian authorities are going to set this up as an arson with no evidence, no proof whatsoever. So if you have a surface area, like a city covered in concrete and asphalt, that radiative heat is not going to be able to penetrate unless it's hot enough. But it can get into the sewer lines, okay? Stormwater lines, sewer lines, any tunnel systems underneath it can get into. This explains why on many occasions around my area, I periodically pick up heat detections around the volcanoes around me, and I'll go out in my truck and I'll take a look. And the one common denominator, the one common factor I find in every single location is grates in the roadway. It could be like stormwater or whatever, right? But grates, the water, the heat's coming up through those grates. There was a few videos posted in late last year or early this year, the fires in California, spontaneous combustion of the vegetation of the bushes. Spontaneous combustion. You need to take this in consideration as, you know, for the ignition. The ignition. Every single news media report always says fires during these heat waves throughout Europe, Turkey, Greece, Italy, accelerated by the winds. Yeah. Build a campfire, build a fire in a fireplace. You're giving it more oxygen of the fire triangle. Winds. Heat. But almost every single one of these fires, they cannot explain the ignition source. So just a little bit of education there on the fire triangle. Okay, I do have some knowledge and experience. My memory's not that far gone, and some practical experience in firefighting. So this is why it's important now, not just Italy, but everywhere else, to watch these growing and expanding heat detections. And what's the vegetation? What is the combustible material around these areas? Okay. That is all. I have to get outside, get to work.